The alarm bells rang through Earth's Defense Command Center. Admiral Kang Tae-min stood at the massive window watching the stars above Seoul. His hands were behind his back, but they shook slightly. He had good reason to be worried. 3 hours ago, an alien ship had appeared near Mars. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The ship sent one message before going silent. The message was simple and terrifying. Send your leaders to negotiate. You have 24 hours. Captain Park Jin-woo walked into the room carrying a thick folder. His face was pale. Sir, we have the list of recommended diplomats. Ambassador Lee Sora is at the top. She speaks 12 languages and has 20 years of experience. Kang took the folder but did not open it. Tell me about our other options. Well, there's Minister Kim Dong-ho. He's good with trade deals. And Professor Oh Min-seo knows alien technology better than anyone. Park paused. Sir, these are all good choices. Any one of them could handle this. Kang finally opened the folder. He flipped through pages of diplomat photos and records. Then he closed it and set it on his desk. I need someone else. Sir? Get me the file on Major Yoon Hyun-sik. Park's eyes went wide. Sir, he's in military prison. He disobeyed direct orders during the Kepler station mission. I know where he is. Kang walked to his computer and pulled up a classified file. A photo appeared on the screen. It showed a man in his 30s with sharp eyes and several scars on his face. Tell me what you know about him. Park looked uncomfortable. Major Yoon is difficult. He's our best special forces officer, but he doesn't follow rules. During the Kepler station rescue, Command ordered him to retreat. The station was lost, they said. Too many enemy ships, but he went in anyway, and he saved 300 civilians, but he lost half his team doing it. Park shook his head. He's been in prison for 6 months. The families of his dead soldiers are still angry. Kang nodded slowly. What else? He has a perfect mission record before Kepler. 37 successful operations. No failures. The other soldiers call him the Ghost because he can get in and out of anywhere without being seen. Park hesitated. But sir, this is a diplomatic mission. We need someone who can talk, not fight, do we? Kang turned back to the window. Jin-woo, what do you think the aliens really want? To negotiate our place in their galactic community. No. Kang's voice was hard. They want us to surrender. They're giving us a chance to do it nicely. But that ship near Mars isn't here to talk. It's here to show us their power. Park was quiet for a moment. So why send Major Yoon? Because diplomats try to find common ground. They look for ways both sides can win. Kang pulled up more files on his screen. Reports from human colonies that had met other alien races. Most of those colonies no longer existed. But what if there is no common ground? What if they just want us to bow down and obey? Then we fight? Then we need someone who knows how to win when fighting isn't an option. Kang closed the files. Get a transport ready. We're going to the prison. An hour later, they stood outside a military prison cell. Inside, Major Yoon Hyun-sik was doing push-ups. He had been doing them for 2 hours straight. When the guards opened the cell door, he didn't even look up. Major, Kang said. Hyun-sik finished his set and stood up. He was not a big man, but something about him made the room feel smaller. Admiral, I wasn't expecting visitors. We have a job for you. I'm in prison. Not anymore. Kang handed him a tablet. Read this. Hyun-sik took the tablet and read quickly. His expression didn't change. Aliens, big ship. Diplomatic mission? He looked up. Why me? I'm not a diplomat. Because diplomats assume the other side wants to talk. You assume they want to fight? And if you're wrong, if they really do want peace? Kang smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Then you'll figure out how to give it to them. But if I'm right, he paused. If I'm right, then we need someone who can turn a diplomatic mission into something else entirely. Hyun-sik handed back the tablet. What's the real mission? Officially, go to their ship. Listen to their offer. Negotiate the best deal you can for Earth. Unofficially, learn everything. Their technology, their weapons, their weaknesses. Find out what they really want and what they're really capable of. Kang stepped closer. And if they're planning to destroy us anyway, make sure Earth knows about it in time to do something. Hyun-sik was quiet for a long moment. The families of my dead soldiers won't like this. They think I should stay in prison. The families of every human on Earth won't like being dead more. What do I get out of this? Full pardon, clean record, and the chance to save 8 billion people. Hyun-sik looked around his small cell. Then he looked at Admiral Kang. When do I leave? Now. The alien transport is already waiting. They gave him a basic diplomatic uniform and a small bag of personal items. The bag looked normal, but hidden inside were several devices that looked like innocent cultural items. A small metal sculpture that was actually a communications device. A book of Korean poetry with pages that could become explosive. A traditional tea set with cups that could record conversations. As they walked to the transport bay, Park asked the question that was bothering him. Sir, what if this goes wrong? What if the aliens see through him? Kang watched as Hyun-sik boarded the alien shuttle. The major looked calm, like he was going on vacation instead of a mission that could start or prevent a war. Jin-woo, the aliens think they understand humans. They've probably studied our diplomatic records, our trade negotiations, our peace treaties. They think they know how we behave. Kang smiled, but they've never met someone like Major Yoon. They're expecting a diplomat who will follow their rules and play their games. The alien shuttle began to power up, its strange blue engines glowing brighter. Instead, we're sending them a predator who has spent his whole life learning how to hunt things bigger and stronger than himself. Kang stepped back as the shuttle lifted off. By the time they realize what he really is, it will be too late. The shuttle disappeared into the night sky, carrying Hyun-sik toward the massive alien ship waiting near Mars. On Earth, Admiral Kang began preparations for two very different scenarios. One involved welcoming humanity into a galactic community. The other involved the largest military mobilization in human history. He had a feeling they would need the second option. The alien shuttle was unlike anything Hyun-sik had ever seen. The walls seemed to glow with their own light, and he couldn't find any buttons or controls. The pilot was a tall, gray-skinned being with 4 arms and eyes that looked like black glass. It hadn't spoken to him during the 6-hour trip from Earth. When they finally docked with the main ship, Hyun-sik was ready. He had spent the journey memorizing every detail of the shuttle, from the way the artificial gravity worked to the strange humming sound the engines made. Information was a weapon, and he collected it like ammunition. The docking bay was enormous. Hyun-sik could see dozens of different ship designs, each one probably from a different alien race. Some looked like metal insects, others like flowing water frozen in time. None of them looked anything like human ships. Major Yoon Hyun-sik of Earth, a voice said behind him. He turned to see a creature that was almost human-shaped but bigger. Its skin was dark blue and covered in small scales. It wore what looked like a military uniform. I am Commander Veltar of the Vethric Empire. Welcome aboard the Sovereign's Edge. Hyun-sik bowed slightly the way diplomats were supposed to. Thank you for this opportunity, Commander. Earth is honored by your invitation. Veltar made a sound that might have been laughter. Invitation. Yes, let us call it that. The alien gestured with one clawed hand. Come, we have much to discuss. As they walked through the ship's corridors, Hyun-sik counted everything. Guard positions, camera locations, the time it took to walk between sections. The ship was clearly designed for war. The walls were thick armor, and he could see weapon ports hidden behind decorative panels. Your species is young, Veltar said as they walked. Only 300 years since you developed spaceflight. Very impressive for such a short time. We learned quickly, Hyun-sik replied. Indeed, that is why the Council has decided to offer you membership. They entered a large room filled with the strangest collection of beings Hyun-sik had ever imagined. One looked like a giant insect with rainbow-colored wings. Another was covered in fur and had too many eyes. A third looked like it was made of living water, and sitting in one corner, looking very small and nervous, was a human woman. Dr. Nara Hee-jin, Veltar said, noticing his glance. Your species' cultural advisor. She has been most helpful in preparing for your arrival. Hyun-sik walked over to her. She looked to be in her 40s, with short black hair and worried eyes. Doctor, he said in Korean. I'm Major Yoon. Her eyes went wide. Major? I was expecting Ambassador Lee. What happened to the diplomatic team? Change of plans, he said quietly. Then, switching back to English, he spoke louder. Dr. Nara has been studying our potential place in galactic society? Yes, she said, still looking confused. The diversity here is incredible. 12 different species all working together. Hyun-sik smiled, but his eyes were watching the other aliens. Working together was one way to describe it. Another way was conquered and controlled. He had seen enough military hierarchies to recognize one when he saw it. Commander Veltar called for attention. Friends, Let us begin with formal introductions. For the next hour, Hyun-sik met representatives from a dozen alien races. Each one was polite and welcoming, but he noticed something important. They all deferred to the Vethrak. This wasn't a council of equals. It was an empire with subject species. The insect-like being was Engineer Clicksack of the Zephyrian Collective. It spoke in precise mathematical terms about resource allocation and planetary development. The furry creature was Trade Minister Borthak, who seemed excited about Earth's economic potential. The water being was Diplomat Frenoth of the Narian Depths, whose voice sounded like ocean waves. Each alien seemed designed for a specific purpose. The Zephyrians were builders and engineers. The Borthak's people were traders and economists. The Nerians were natural negotiators. Every species had found their niche in the galactic community. After the introductions, Commander Veltar led Hyun-sik to a private meeting room. The walls were covered with star maps showing the locations of thousands of worlds. "Now we discuss business," Veltar said. "The Council's offer to Earth is generous. We will provide you with 3 star systems to colonize, rich worlds with good resources. In exchange, Earth will share its military technology and contribute ships to the Council's defense forces." Hyun-sik studied the star map. The 3 systems Veltar indicated were far from Earth, isolated from major trade routes. And Earth's current territories will be administered by the Council. For efficiency, you understand, humans are not yet ready for full self-governance on a galactic scale. Translation: they wanted Earth's military to serve them while taking control of all human worlds. Hyun-sik nodded thoughtfully. "This is a significant decision. I will need time to consider all aspects. Of course. We would not expect an immediate answer to such an important proposal." Veltar's scaled face showed what might have been satisfaction. "Perhaps you would like a tour of our ship? To better understand the benefits of Council membership? That would be very helpful," Hyun-sik said. The tour took 3 hours. Veltar showed him weapon systems that could destroy planets, engines that could cross the galaxy in weeks, and manufacturing bays that could build entire fleets. It was meant to be impressive and intimidating. It worked, but not the way Veltar expected. Instead of being overwhelmed, Hyun-sik was taking notes. Mental notes about shield generators that had a 30-second reset cycle. About weapon targeting systems that needed direct line of sight. About computer cores that were centralized instead of distributed. The aliens had built an incredibly powerful ship, but they had also built weaknesses into it. Every strength could become a vulnerability if you knew how to exploit it. That evening, Hyun-sik was given quarters near the ship's diplomatic section. The room was comfortable but clearly monitored. He found 3 separate surveillance devices within the first 10 minutes. He left them alone but made sure to behave like a simple soldier who was out of his depth. Dr. Hee-jin visited him after dinner. She was carrying a tablet with what looked like cultural data, but she seemed nervous. "Major," she said in Korean, "I need to ask you something. Why are you really here?" Hyun-sik activated one of his hidden devices. It would scramble any listening equipment for about 5 minutes. "What do you mean?" "I've been here for 2 weeks. I've seen how these aliens think, how they operate. This isn't a negotiation. It's a surrender ceremony. They've already decided what's going to happen to Earth. What have you learned? They're not evil exactly. But they think humans are children who need to be managed. Every species they've integrated has the same story. Join willingly and keep some independence, or resist and be conquered completely." Hyun-sik nodded. "How many species have resisted?" 7 in the last 50 years. 3 were completely destroyed. The other 4 are slave races now, and the willing ones, better treated but still controlled. The Council makes all major decisions. They provide protection and technology, but they also take resources and require military service. Hyun-sik walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth as a small blue dot in the distance. "Dr. Nara, how well do you know this ship's computer systems?" "Pretty well. I've been documenting everything for my cultural reports." "Why? I may need your help with something. But first, I need to understand exactly how this council operates." She looked worried. "Major, whatever you're thinking, these aliens are powerful. Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours." "Technology isn't everything," Hyun-sik said. "I've fought enemies with better weapons before. There's always a way to win if you're willing to think differently." Over the next hour, Dr. Hee-jin told him everything she had learned. The Vethrak Empire controlled most of the military. The Zephyrians handled engineering and construction. The Narians managed diplomacy and trade. Each species was essential to the whole system. But that also meant the system had critical points of failure. And Hyunsik was very good at finding pressure points. As Dr. Heejin left, she paused at the door. "Major, what are you going to tell them tomorrow?" "That Earth needs more time to consider their generous offer," he said. "And while I'm buying that time, I'm going to learn everything I can about our new friends." After she left, Hyunsik began his real work. Using tools hidden in his cultural items, he started mapping the ship's internal systems. He also began planning something that no one expected from a simple human diplomat. He was planning to steal the most powerful warship in the galaxy. 3 days had passed since Hyunsik boarded the alien ship. To everyone watching, he seemed like a simple soldier trying to understand complex diplomatic matters. He asked basic questions, took careful notes, and appeared overwhelmed by the advanced technology around him. But appearances could be deceiving. During the morning meal in the ship's dining hall, Hyunsik sat with Engineer Clicksack. The insect-like alien was explaining how their matter converters could turn asteroids into building materials. "Fascinating," Hyunsik said, cutting his food carefully. "On Earth, we still have to mine metals the old way." "Very slow and inefficient." Clicksack's compound eyes glittered. "Your species will advance quickly once you have access to our technology. The Council has calculated that Earth could reach current galactic standards within 50 years. 50 years is a long time," Hyunsik said. "What if we wanted to learn faster?" "Impossible. Each species must follow the proper development path." The Zephyrians required 87 years. The Borthak took 93. Humans are actually progressing faster than most. Hyunsik nodded thoughtfully. What Clicksack didn't realize was that he was revealing something important. The Council didn't want rapid advancement. They wanted controlled, predictable growth that kept new species dependent on their guidance. That afternoon, Hyunsik met with Trade Minister Borthak. The furry alien was excited to discuss Earth's economic potential. "Your planet has such diversity," Borthak said, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "Different cultures, different resources, different ways of thinking. Most species are much more uniform. Is that unusual?" "Very. Most worlds develop one dominant culture before they reach space. It makes them efficient, but limited." Borthak leaned forward. "Earth exports music, art, stories, food, and ideas. The Council finds this chaos confusing, but I find it profitable. Another important detail. Earth's diversity wasn't just tolerated by some aliens, it was valued. That gave humanity leverage that most species didn't have." In the evening, Hyunsik attended a formal dinner with all the alien representatives. He had prepared for this carefully. Tonight he would begin psychological warfare. "Commander Veltar," he said during the meal, "I've been reading about your military history. The Battle of Krexen Prime was brilliant strategy." Veltar's scaled features showed pride. "You know of Krexen Prime?" "A classic flanking maneuver. Divide the enemy forces, attack the weaker side first, then use their own defensive positions against them." Hyunsik took a sip of his drink. "We study battles like that on Earth. Human military academies teach your tactics." "Indeed. And what do human military academies teach about inferior forces defeating superior ones?" Hyunsik smiled. "Many things. The Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans held off thousands of Persians. The American Revolution, where farmers defeated the British Empire. The Winter War, where Finland stopped the Soviet Union." He paused. "Humans have a saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall." Commander Veltar laughed, but Hyunsik noticed that some of the other aliens looked uncomfortable. He was planting seeds of doubt about the invincibility of superior forces. He turned to Engineer Clicksack. "Your people built this incredible ship, but I'm curious about something. What happens if the main computer core fails?" "Impossible," Clicksack clicked. "We have 17 backup systems, of course. But hypothetically, if someone did disable the main core, the ship would experience reduced efficiency, but emergency protocols would activate. And how long would those protocols take to restore full function?" Clicksack hesitated. "Perhaps 6 hours for basic systems, 12 for full restoration." Hyunsik nodded as if this was just academic curiosity, but he had just learned that the ship had a 12-hour window of vulnerability if someone knew how to exploit it. Later, he spoke with diplomat Frenoth about trade negotiations. The water being described how the Council had peacefully integrated dozens of species through careful economic agreements. But surely some species tried to deceive you, Hyunsik asked. Humans can be very creative with the truth. Frenoth's liquid form rippled with what might have been confusion. Deception? Why would anyone lie during negotiations? If terms are unfair, we simply adjust them. What if someone agreed to terms they had no intention of keeping? That does not occur to me. What would be the purpose? Hyunsik realized something crucial. The Nerians were natural diplomats because they literally couldn't understand dishonesty. They had evolved in a species where deception was impossible or unnecessary. That made them brilliant at finding fair solutions but terrible at recognizing when someone was lying. Over the following days, Hyunsik continued his careful intelligence gathering. He learned that the Vethrak were proud warriors who followed rigid military protocols. The Zephyrians were logical creatures who couldn't adapt quickly to unexpected situations. The Borthak were traders who valued profit over everything else. The Nerians were honest to a fault. Each species was highly specialized, which made them powerful in their areas of expertise. But it also made them predictable. Humans, Hyunsik realized, were something the galaxy had never seen before. Generalists who excelled at adaptation and creative problem-solving. On the fourth night, Dr. Hee-jin visited his quarters again. She looked worried. Major, I've been monitoring their communications. Something's changed. They're receiving messages from somewhere else. Hyunsik activated his signal scrambler. What kind of messages? Military communications. Fleet movements. And there's something else. She hesitated. I think they're planning to attack Earth regardless of what you decide. How long do we have? Based on what I've intercepted, maybe 72 hours. Hyunsik was quiet for a moment. Dr. Nara, how well do you know this ship's data storage systems? Pretty well. I've been accessing their cultural databases for my research. I need you to help me access something more sensitive. Military databases, fleet positions, communication protocols. Her eyes went wide. That's espionage. If they catch us, if they're planning to attack Earth anyway, we're dead either way. At least this way. Earth might have a chance. She was quiet for a long moment. What do you need me to do? Over the next hour, they planned their infiltration of the ship's secure systems. Dr. Hee-jin had legitimate access to many areas of the ship for her cultural research. Hyunsik had been mapping security protocols and guard rotations. Together, they could reach the ship's data core. But first, Hyunsik needed to create a distraction. The next morning, he requested a meeting with Commander Veltar. When they met in the private conference room, Hyunsik appeared agitated. Commander, I need to send a message to Earth immediately. Is there a problem? My government is asking questions I can't answer. They want detailed information about your military capabilities, your territorial boundaries, your relationships with other species. Hyunsik paced around the room. I'm a soldier, not a diplomat. I don't know how to explain complex political situations. Veltar seemed pleased. Perhaps I can help. What specific information does Earth require? For the next 2 hours, Hyunsik pumped the alien commander for detailed intelligence about Council military forces, territorial disputes, and internal politics. Veltar was happy to explain, thinking he was intimidating the primitive human with displays of Council power. Meanwhile, Dr. Hee-jin was in the ship's data core, downloading everything she could access. Fleet positions, weapon specifications, political structures, and most importantly, the timeline for Earth's invasion. That evening, Hyunsik attended another formal dinner. But this time he was different. Instead of asking questions, he told stories. Stories about human military history, human technological development, and human cultural achievements. You mentioned that most species develop one dominant culture, he said to the assembled aliens. Humans never did that. We have thousands of different cultures, languages, belief systems. Most of our history is spent fighting each other. How inefficient, commented Engineer Klicksack. Maybe. But it taught us something important. It taught us how to fight enemies who think differently than we do. Hyunsik looked around the table. Every human military officer studies not just their own tactics, but the tactics of their enemies. We learn to think like our opponents so we can defeat them. Commander Veltar leaned forward. And what have you learned about us, Major? Hyunsik smiled. That you're honorable warriors who value strength and follow clear rules of engagement. That engineer Clixack's people are brilliant builders who solve problems through logical analysis. The trade minister Borthak's species sees opportunity where others see obstacles. That diplomat Freynoth's people have never met a conflict they couldn't resolve through honest negotiation. The aliens seemed pleased by these accurate descriptions. But I've also learned, Hyunsik continued, that you've never fought an enemy like humans, an enemy that can think like all of you at the same time. The room grew quiet. What do you mean? Feltar asked. Humans can be warriors when we need to fight, engineers when we need to build, traders when we need to profit, diplomats when we need to negotiate, and we can switch between all of these roles instantly, depending on what the situation requires. Hyunsik stood up from the table. Thank you for this wonderful meal. I think I finally understand what Earth's place in the galactic community should be. Security Chief Krixtal had been watching the human for 2 days now. Something was wrong, but he couldn't identify exactly what. The reptilian officer had survived 40 years in council security by trusting his instincts. And right now, those instincts were screaming danger. The human asks too many questions, he told Commander Veltar during their morning briefing. He wants to know about ship systems, crew rotations, communication protocols. These are not diplomatic concerns. Veltar dismissed his worries with a wave of his clawed hand. Major Yoon is a soldier trying to understand a complex situation. His questions show he takes our offer seriously. Or he is gathering intelligence for an attack. One human against a ship of 5,000 crew members? Veltar laughed. Krixtal, your paranoia is useful, but sometimes you see threats where none exist. But Krixtal wasn't convinced. That afternoon, he decided to set a trap. He approached Hyunsik in the ship's observation lounge, where the human was studying star charts with Dr. Hee-jin. Major Yoon, Krixtal said, his voice like grinding stones. I have been reviewing Earth's defensive capabilities. Your planet seems vulnerable to attack from the Proxima Centauri approach. Hyunsik looked up from the charts. Proxima Centauri? That's not a major shipping route. No, but it would be an excellent position for a surprise military strike. Your orbital defenses cannot cover that vector effectively. Dr. Hee-jin frowned. But our long-range sensors would detect any approaching fleet days in advance. Not if they used Zephyrian cloaking technology, Krixtal said. A small strike force could approach undetected and destroy your defense platforms before the main fleet arrives. Hyunsik studied the star chart more carefully. How small a force would be needed for such an attack? Perhaps 50 ships. With proper coordination, they could cripple Earth's defenses in less than an hour. What Krixtal didn't mention was that no such attack was planned. Proxima Centauri was actually protected by Council patrol ships. Any real military planner would know this. If the human tried to send a warning about this fake threat, it would prove he was a spy. But Hyunsik's response surprised him. Interesting tactical analysis, the human said. But I think you're overestimating Earth's vulnerability. We may not have your advanced technology, but we've had a lot of practice fighting against superior forces. What do you mean? Well, for example, any attacking fleet would have to deal with our asteroid mining operations near Jupiter. Thousands of mining charges that could be repurposed as space mines, and our orbital factories could be converted to weapons platforms within hours. Hyunsik smiled. Humans are very good at turning peaceful infrastructure into military assets when necessary. Krixtal felt a chill run down his spine. None of this information was in Council intelligence reports. Either the human was lying, or Earth was far more dangerous than they had realized. Of course, Hyunsik continued. I'm sure the Council would never launch such an attack. This is just theoretical discussion, right? Of course, Krixtal said. But his suspicions were now stronger than ever. That night he began monitoring all communications from the diplomatic section. What he discovered made his blood run cold. Someone had been accessing the ship's military databases. Someone with high-level clearance had downloaded fleet positions, weapon specifications, and invasion timetables. The access logs showed Dr. Hee-jin's authorization codes, but Krixtal knew the human cultural advisor didn't have the technical skills for such sophisticated data theft. Major Yoon, however, was former Special Forces. He would certainly know how to conduct electronic espionage. Krixtal immediately ordered increased surveillance on both humans. Hidden cameras were installed in their quarters. Their communications were monitored constantly. Guards were positioned at all critical ship systems, but Hyunsik had expected this. He had been preparing for discovery since his first day aboard the ship. The next morning, he requested a private meeting with Commander Veltar. When they met in the secure conference room, Hyun-sik seemed agitated and worried. "Commander, I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday, about Earth's place in the galactic community. And I'm concerned that some of my government's military advisors may not understand the benefits of council membership. They're suspicious people. They might interpret your offer as a threat rather than an opportunity." Veltar leaned forward. "What kind of concerns do they have?" "They want to know about council military capabilities. Not because they're planning to fight, but because they need to convince Earth's population that resistance would be hopeless." Hyun-sik paced around the room. "They've asked me to provide detailed information about your fleet sizes, weapon technologies, and defensive capabilities." "And what have you told them?" "Nothing yet. I wasn't sure if such information would be appropriate to share." Hyun-sik stopped pacing and looked directly at Veltar. "But if Earth is going to join the Council peacefully, perhaps it would help if they understood exactly what they would be joining." Over the next hour, Veltar provided detailed information about Council military forces, fleet compositions, territorial boundaries, recent conflicts with independent species. He thought he was demonstrating Council power to ensure Earth's compliance. What he was actually doing was confirming the intelligence that Dr. Hee-jin had already stolen. Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, Dr. Hee-jin was having her own problems. She had been called to meet with Engineer Klicksack about her cultural research, but when she arrived at the meeting room, Security Chief Krikstal was waiting instead. "Dr. Nara," the reptilian said, "I have some questions about your recent work." "Of course. How can I help?" "You have been accessing our cultural databases extensively, but yesterday, someone used your authorization codes to enter restricted military files." Dr. Hee-jin felt her heart racing, but she kept her expression calm. "That's impossible. I don't even know how to access military databases. Perhaps someone else used your codes." "Who would do that? And how would they get my access information?" Krikstal studied her carefully. "That is what I intend to find out." For the next 2 hours, he questioned her about her activities, her interactions with other crew members, and her conversations with Major Yoon. Dr. Hee-jin answered carefully, telling enough truth to sound believable while hiding the most important details. But she knew her time was running out. If Krikstal discovered proof of their espionage, both she and Hyun-sik would be arrested, and Earth would face invasion with no warning. That evening, she managed to send Hyun-sik a coded message hidden in a routine cultural report. "Security investigating. Need to move quickly." Hyun-sik received the message while attending another diplomatic dinner. He knew they had perhaps hours before Krikstal found evidence of their activities. It was time to implement the most dangerous part of his plan. After dinner, he approached Commander Veltar privately. "Commander, I need to send a detailed report to Earth immediately. High government is growing impatient for my recommendations." "Of course. Use the diplomatic communication system. Actually, I was hoping to use your main communication array. The diplomatic system has limited bandwidth, and I need to send a lot of technical data." Veltar hesitated. "The main array is a restricted area. I understand. But this report could determine whether Earth accepts your offer peacefully or decides to resist. Surely that's worth a small security exception." After a moment, Veltar agreed. He would personally escort Hyun-sik to the communication center. What the alien commander didn't know was that Hyun-sik wasn't planning to send a report to Earth. He was planning to access the ship's central computer core and upload a virus that would give him control of critical ship systems. But as they walked toward the communication center, Krikstal emerged from a side corridor with a squad of guards. "Commander," the security chief said, "I must speak with you immediately. It concerns our human guests." Veltar stopped. "What about them?" "We have evidence that they have been stealing classified military information. Major Yoon is not a diplomat. He is a spy." The corridor fell silent. Hyun-sik could see armed guards moving to surround him. His cover was blown, but his mission wasn't complete. "Evidence?" Veltar asked. Krikstal handed him a data tablet. Analysis of the stolen files shows they were copied using techniques taught in human special forces training. The access patterns match military intelligence gathering protocols. Veltar looked at the data, then at Hyun-sik. "Is this true, Major?" Hyun-sik smiled. "Security Chief Krikstal is very thorough. Yes, I've been gathering intelligence about your capabilities. Why? Because Admiral Kang didn't send me here to negotiate Earth's surrender. He sent me here to find out whether the Council was planning to attack us regardless of what we decided. Veltar's expression turned dangerous. And what did you discover? That you were never planning to honor any agreement. The invasion fleet is already assembled. You were just giving Earth time to lower its defenses voluntarily. The alien commander was quiet for a long moment. Then he gestured to his guards. Arrest them both. As the guards moved forward, Hyun-sik activated a hidden device in his jacket. The device sent a coded signal to every monitoring device he had planted throughout the ship over the past week. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the vessel. Life support fluctuations, navigation errors, communication malfunction. Admiral Kang's image filled the main view screen of the Sovereign's Edge. Behind him, Commander Veltar could see the bridge of a human warship, but something was wrong. The technology looked far more advanced than anything in Council intelligence reports. Admiral Kang, Veltar said carefully, this is unexpected. We were not scheduled for communication until Major Yoon completed his diplomatic mission. His mission is complete, Kang replied. He has gathered all the intelligence we need. Now we're here to collect him. Krixtel stepped forward. One human ship against the flagship of the Vethrak Empire? Admiral, your bravery exceeds your wisdom. Kang smiled. Who said anything about one ship? On the tactical display, new contacts began appearing. Dozens of them surrounding the Sovereign's Edge from all directions. They had appeared without warning, as if they had been hiding in empty space. Impossible, breathed Engineer Klicksack. Our sensors show nothing. Your sensors show what we want them to show, Kang said. Major Yoon's intelligence gathering included detailed information about your detection systems. We've learned how to hide from them. Dr. Hee-jin, who was being held under guard near the communication station, allowed herself a small smile. During her weeks aboard the ship, she had downloaded more than just military information. She had also stolen the technical specifications for Vethrak sensor arrays. Commander Veltar studied the tactical display. Even if you have a fleet, Admiral, you cannot win. This ship alone could destroy your entire force. Could it? Kang asked. Hyun-sik, are you able to speak? The guards holding Hyun-sik moved him closer to the view screen. I'm here, Admiral. Did you manage to complete the secondary objective? Hyun-sik nodded. All monitoring devices are active. I have control of non-critical systems throughout the ship. Veltar spun around. What monitoring devices? The cultural artifacts I brought aboard, Hyun-sik explained. Traditional Korean tea set, poetry books, decorative sculptures. Each one contained advanced human technology. I've been installing them throughout your ship for the past week. On cue, lights began flickering throughout the bridge. Environmental controls malfunctioned, causing temperature fluctuations. Communication panels started displaying random information. This is sabotage, Krixtal snarled. This is a demonstration, Hyun-sik corrected. Right now I'm only affecting minor systems. But if I wanted to, I could disable your shields, your weapons, your engines. You're bluffing, Veltar said. But he didn't sound certain. Hyun-sik activated another hidden device. Suddenly the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, causing everyone on the bridge to stumble. Admiral, Hyun-sik said to the view screen, I recommend we proceed to Phase 2. Understood. Commander Veltar, you now have a choice. You can surrender peacefully, or you can discover just how vulnerable your ship really is. Veltar straightened his shoulders. The Vethrak Empire does not surrender to inferior species. Then let me show you something, Kang said. On the view screen, the image changed to show space around Earth. But it wasn't the same Earth that Veltar remembered from their intelligence briefings. The planet was surrounded by hundreds of defensive platforms. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was filled with mining stations that had clearly been converted to weapons platforms. And everywhere human ships moved in complex formations that spoke of careful military planning. Impossible, Veltar whispered. 3 days ago, Earth had fewer than 50 military vessels. 3 days ago, you thought Earth had fewer than 50 military vessels. Kang corrected. We've been preparing for this meeting much longer than you realize. Engineer Klicksack studied the display with growing alarm. Those defensive platforms, they're using modified Zephyrian shield technology. And those weapons, those are adapted Vethrak plasma cannons. How did you acquire our technology? Veltar demanded. Dr. Heejin spoke up from where she was being held. You gave it to us. Every technical manual I downloaded, every system specification I copied, every engineering detail I recorded. We've had human scientists working around the clock to reverse engineer your designs. But that's impossible. Even with our technical data, developing functional weapons would take years. For most species, yes, Admiral Kang said. But humans have something you don't. We have experience fighting enemies with superior technology. We've been doing it for our entire history. On the tactical display, the human ships began moving into attack formation. Their movements were unlike anything the Council had seen before. Unpredictable, chaotic, but somehow coordinated. Each of our ship captains is acting independently, Kang explained. No central command structure for you to target. No predictable battle plans for you to counter. Just hundreds of individual human commanders, each one trying to find a creative way to defeat you. Commander Veltar realized he was facing a military doctrine he had never encountered. Every species the Council had fought followed logical, predictable battle plans. But humans seemed to thrive on chaos and improvisation. This is your final warning, Kang said. Surrender now or face the consequences. Veltar looked around his bridge. His crew was waiting for orders, but he could see doubt in their eyes. The ship's systems were malfunctioning. They were surrounded by an enemy fleet. And their intelligence about human capabilities had clearly been completely wrong. What are your terms? He asked finally. Simple. You will immediately recall all Council forces moving toward Earth. You will acknowledge humanity as an independent species with full sovereignty over our territory, and you will negotiate a new treaty, one between equals, not conquerors and subjects. The Council will never agree to this. The Council doesn't have a choice, Hyun-sik said. By now, every major Council military installation has received a detailed technical analysis of their vulnerabilities. Human Special Forces teams have been studying your technology for weeks. We know how to defeat your weapons, penetrate your defenses, and disrupt your communications. You're threatening the entire galactic community? We're offering the entire galactic community a choice, Admiral Kang corrected. Join us as partners or try to conquer us and discover why that's a bad idea. For long moments, the bridge of the Sovereign's Edge was silent except for the sound of malfunctioning equipment. Finally, Commander Veltar made his decision. Stand down all weapons, he ordered his crew. Send a message to Council Command. Tell them we need to renegotiate our approach to the human situation. Admiral Kang nodded. A wise choice, Commander. Major Yoon, prepare for extraction. Actually, Hyun-sik said, I think I'll stay a bit longer. We still have a treaty to negotiate, and I'm starting to enjoy diplomatic work. Dr. Hee-jin laughed despite their situation. Major, you just proved that humans don't need to choose between being soldiers or diplomats. No, Hyun-sik agreed. We can be both. Over the following hours, the real negotiations began. But now the terms were very different. Earth was no longer being offered membership in the Council. Earth was demanding to join as an equal partner. The aliens quickly discovered that Major Yoon was as skilled at negotiation as he was at espionage. He used every piece of intelligence he had gathered to craft agreements that protected human interests while offering genuine benefits to Council species. When Security Chief Krixtal complained that the treaties were too favorable to Earth, Hyun-sik smiled. Chief, 3 days ago you thought one human couldn't threaten your ship. Yesterday you thought Earth couldn't match your military technology. Today you think we can't negotiate effectively. He paused. Perhaps it's time to stop underestimating what humans can do. The final treaty was signed aboard the Sovereign's Edge 3 days later. Earth became the first species to join the Galactic Council with full military autonomy. Human ships would patrol their own territory, human technology would remain under human control, and human representatives would have equal votes in Council decisions. As Hyun-sik prepared to return to Earth, Commander Veltar approached him privately. Major Yoon, the alien said, I must ask you something. What are you really? Soldier? Spy? Diplomat? Hyun-sik considered the question. I'm human, Commander. We're whatever we need to be. And what do humans need to be now? Neighbors, Hyun-sik said. Good neighbors who can defend themselves, help their friends, and make it very expensive for anyone who wants to be their enemy. As the human shuttle carried him back to Earth, Hyun-sik looked out at the stars. The galaxy was a bigger, more dangerous place than humans had imagined. But it was also full of opportunities for a species that refused to be limited by what others thought was possible. Admiral Kang's gamble had paid off. Instead of sending diplomats who would negotiate Earth's surrender, he had sent a dangerous human hero who had turned the entire situation into a victory. And throughout the galaxy, other species were beginning to realize that they had been wrong about humanity. Humans weren't just another primitive species waiting to be conquered or controlled. They were something entirely new, something unpredictable and adaptable and very, very dangerous to underestimate. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, and it would be unlike anything the universe had ever seen before.